Welcome back to Diary of a Medium, Stories from the Spirit World podcast. Today, I'm going to talk about ethical responsibility as a psychic medium. Now, this wasn't even a podcast that I was thinking about, and I had a whole other podcast to put out this week, but something that came up this morning in my mediumship development group when I was talking to my students has really prompted me to record this now, because I'm actually feeling, how can I say it? I'm feeling a little bit fired up, I guess. And I feel like this is something that needs to be talked about, that, needs to get out there, that we should be really thinking about as ethical mediums. How are we leaving our sitter when we are doing readings for them? So stay tuned while I tell you some stories that were shared with me today about experiences that my students have had with mediums, leaving them feeling less than okay at the end of the reading. Okay, so honestly, I didn't even put my lippy on for this. I was like, I'm doing the video, I'm still in my singlet. And normally when I do my podcasts, I kind of think about them a little bit. But this one, honestly, was so raw for me, having these stories shared with me, that I felt compelled to just jump on here, to start recording and think, just let's talk about, as a medium, where we need to take responsibility for the things that we're saying, the information that we're giving, the delivery of what we're saying. And let's not just blame it all on the spirit world or blame it all on the other person in front of us when things are a little bit off, or we haven't quite felt like we've quite hit the mark, right? So my class today with some of my membership students, so we have bi-monthly master classes, and today one of my students said, can we talk about the fact that if somebody can't read me, is it that I'm blocking the energy? Is it that I'm hard to read? Is it that my energy is not right? And she shared an experience with me, whereas another practicing psychic medium had basically said to her, you're too hard to read, like you're expressionless, you don't have, like, your energy is very flat, and I'm not able to read you, and people are not going to be able to read you because of that. And she asked me, is that really true? And I think this is a really good question, because this particular developing psychic medium had said to her, like, I need to read your energy, I need to read your aura, and I'm not able to do that because of the way that your energy was. And that's the thing that I want to highlight, right? So if we are practicing wherever we are in our journey, and there's some kind of block where we're unable to either connect to people for them, or we're not able to bring through any information, or we're struggling to get that connection with our sitter, like our client that's in front of us, it's our responsibility, right? That is the piece that we have to look at and say, okay, what's coming up for me right now? Why am I not able to connect to this person's energy? Because if it's not possible to connect to someone's energy that might be flat, or people would say they're blocked or they're blocking the energy, then what you're saying is that every time I meet someone that's maybe not so high vibe and they're a little bit quieter, then I'm not going to be able to connect to them. Like, people can't read for them. And that's simply not true. Like, we have to think, a lot of people that come to us for readings, they're in deep grief, or they're in deep trauma, they've lost someone. So their energy isn't necessarily going to be all love and light and happiness and bubbly. They're probably highly nervous. They're they want their loved one to come through, but they're also worried, what if their loved one does come through, or what if their loved one doesn't come through? You know, they have a million thoughts that are going through their head right now. They're not thinking about, can this psychic read my energy? Because that's not their job in that moment. That's not their job. That's your job as the medium, as a developing medium. It's your job to hone your craft, your energy, and your connection with the spirit world in order to be able to read different types of people that come up. Now, if you're in a mediumship link and your recipient, your person that's sitting in front of you that's come for the reading, if they've come to you and you are having problems actually connecting to their loved one or to their energy, this is where it's just showing you that you need to do a little bit more development. You need to look at that piece a little bit. Okay, if I'm also influenced by the person that's come to me for the reading, so maybe they are like not giving you any expression, maybe their energy is very nervous, or their energy feels quite flat. Like, let's be honest, you know, if we've lost a loved one, or if we've got some things going on in our life, then our energy can be flat, 100%. But as a developing medium, if you are influenced by your sitter, if you're influenced by their body language, if you're influenced by their expression or lack of expression, then you are too much reliant on your sitter's feedback in order to validate what you're saying, right? The information that you're receiving. So you are relying too much on their validation and not enough in your trust in yourself and your connection to the spirit world. So it's almost a little bit like you're saying, you know, I don't fully trust what I'm receiving and I'm giving. I'm relying on the person in front of me validating that information. Well, yes, we do want them to validate the information, but not to prove that validation to us, more to prove that they understand what we're actually saying. And it's two different things, right? It's how we are receiving it, we're trusting, but whether we're delivering it in a way that our, like sitter, the person in front of us, is understanding it, that's what we're looking for validation on. Now, if we're too connected, which is more of a psychic link to the person in front of us, then what we're doing is we're not connected enough to our spirit communicator. Your connection is always the responsibility of you, the medium, right? So if you're reading facial expressions and, you know, you are guided by what your sitter is giving you feedback for and not actually what you're receiving, then you're not working mediumistically. You're working more in a psychic link, right? That's when you're affected by the sitter. You're not anchored enough into spirit. And if we're going around blaming the sitter in front of us, the person who's come for the reading, whether that's you're another practitioner medium or someone that's paid for a reading, and you're blaming your sitter, that's ego. That's not where you're taking responsibility for your own connection. And I'm literally beating the drum of these kind of things because I see it so much in the mediumship world, where when the medium can't do the thing that they have come to do, then they blame an external source for that problem. And has it happened to me? Absolutely, 100%. Have I gone into readings where I haven't been able to get information that the person wanted? Yeah, I definitely have. And I do believe that sometimes we can come across people that are not compatible. We're not compatible. Like I have definitely, especially in markets and places like that where it's fast paced, where people are coming for a short space of time. I have had readings where people have come to me and I'm trying to give them evidence. They're being oppositional with what I'm giving them, or like challenging me in a way that is telling me that I have to prove myself to them. And I have stopped the readings and I have said, hey, look, I actually just don't think that we're compatible. Like, it's not a you problem, it's definitely a me problem. And I don't think that I am the best medium for you right now. So I think it would be better that I stop the reading now, because I don't really want you to be disappointed. And has it happened many times? Not a lot. Maybe twice to me, where I've had different situations. You know, one of them was specifically where a lady wanted me to medically diagnose her husband, that the hospital and the specialist hadn't been able to. And she told me, well, if I could do what I can do, I can actually do that. And, you know, I politely shared with her that, you know, I'm not a medical medium. I'm not insured to give medical advice. And that's not what I can do. Like, I'm happy to connect and organically see what's coming in for you. But I knew that at the end of that reading, she wasn't going to be satisfied with what I was going to give her. So in that moment, I made the decision to say, hey, look, I don't think that I am actually the medium for you right now. And I was okay with that decision. And, you know, other people might disagree. Other people might think, no, well, it's your job and you should make that happen. Look, I liken it to, you know, sometimes you meet people in circles or in events or in the workplace, and you just might not gel with their energy. And I think that's okay, right? Because everybody isn't for everybody. And I would rather say to someone, actually, I just don't think that I am the psychic medium for you at this moment. But I've probably got someone that I can recommend that would be a better fit for you. And ethically, that sits okay with me, right? If that doesn't with you, that's okay as well. You just have to kind of take what resonates with you. But the one thing that I want to say is, if you're having trouble in your mediumship in somewhere, that's a door to open for you to say, what is it that I need to know here? What is it that I need to work on a little bit more? Because we all should be continuing to work on our development. Doesn't matter where we are, right? Whether we are a developing medium, whether we're a peer professional medium, whether we're a mentor or a teacher. To me, we're always up-leveling our skills. And that means looking inside as well. So that was just one aspect that I kind of wanted to touch on with regards to ethical mediumship, right? But another thing that I really, really wanted to bring through, so that was one of the questions that one of my students, we talked about in our class today. And then I had one of my other students actually share an experience with me that literally blew my mind and had me really think about talking about this now on this podcast, because I'm kind of like the emotion is running through me about it. And, you know, I said to her, like, I'm actually angry on your behalf. Like, I actually feel angry for you right now. So what happened? She was telling me that she was doing kind of like a swap with someone who she had got to know. Maybe they were going to look to do some work together in a different area of where they're working right now. And this other person wanted to do a mediumship reading on her, just to show her like her capabilities and the things that she could do and that kind of thing. That's how it was kind of given to me. So what actually happened in the reading was that the medium had her eyes closed and basically was just channeling information. So, you know, channeling information is good, like doing trans mediumship, channel mediumship. It's all different aspects of mediumship. And for me, I don't feel like, you know, I could be wrong, but for me, I don't feel like channeled mediumship is the right type of mediumship to do in a one-on-one session where we're bringing through evidence of a loved one, unless that is specifically agreed or understood before, because that type of mediumship doesn't include the sitter. It purely is the medium who is channeling a loved one. But it kind of misses the mark a little bit for me in respect to the person who has come for the reading is then excluded from the reading. And it's almost like they are on the outside looking in. Like, I've done trans mediumship, channel mediumship myself. It's not my zone of genius, and I'm not a huge fan of it for mediumship. Like, I don't mind trance channeling for things like spirit guides and, if you're working with other realms or aspects, liken it to someone like Bashar, Esther Hicks, where she channels Abraham, that kind of thing. I'm with, but I think for me in a private one-on-one session, it isn't for me, and that's okay. Anyhow, I digress. So she kind of sort of said I was sitting there while I was like just sort of being talked at. Some of the stuff was interesting. Some of the stuff didn't hit the mark really with me, but I wasn't asked for any feedback. That's fine if that's the way that medium is working. But then the next thing that she said to me was, all of a sudden, as she was channeling, the medium had a visceral reaction to something. And then all of a sudden said to me, oh my gosh, that was like really horrible. Like, I've just seen something really bad. And to the point where she then had to lie down because she wasn't feeling well. She was having a visceral reaction to whatever it was that she's seen. Now, after that, she then said to my student, who obviously was her sitter at the time, I can't share that with you. So, she was sort of saying to her, what do you mean you can't share that? Like, if you've seen something, then surely you need to tell me. And she said, oh no, I can't. Like, I can't share that. Like, that was really bad. I can't tell you what that is. And she shared with me what kind of effect that this has had on her. So if you imagine that, you're in a reading with a psychic medium, and all of a sudden the psychic medium sees something that obviously they deem to be bad, that, they can't share, but then says that out loud and doesn't follow that up at all, apart from saying, I can't tell you any more about that. I want to ask you, what kind of open loop that you are leaving then for your recipient, for your sitter? You have left them with this huge open gap now. So refusing to share the information because it's so bad, but I've presenced that something's really bad. So already your sitter is activated, your person in front of you is activated. Immediately, they're going into fight or flight. Their nervous system has gone into protection. Oh my God, what is this? Is this bad? Am I going to die? Is someone going to die? I know. So all of these things, right? And especially when you refuse to give any context around what that is. Now, there's two things going on here for me, and you may agree or you may not agree. That's okay. Like, to me, if you're having a visceral reaction to something to the point as the medium you have to lie down, then you need to do work on yourself. There's something there for you that needs to be looked at, because immediately that makes that reading about the medium. Now, imagine if that's a paid reading and all of a sudden someone's come, paid you for a reading, and then, you have this visceral effect that you have to lie down. Then you are making that reading then about you. That's not then about your sitter anymore, because not only is your sitter, your recipient, the person that's come to you. I mean, this was just a practice style reading, but imagine if this was actually a reading where somebody had come and paid for this. I mean, but not only that, I mean, even when you're doing practice readings, like the ethicalness of that should still be there. It should still be a professional style delivery of a reading. We always want to leave the person better than we found them. And, when I go into any kind of readings, I always set that intention. Now, to me, if you're receiving information that's bad or it's terrible, then where are you setting your intention when that information is coming through, or when you're making your connection to the spirit world? We're not saying, right, that everything is love and light, right? There's polarity in every relationship. right? There will be information that comes through from the spirit world that you may deem like not nice information, but it should always be information that is for the highest good of the sitter, which means that we may talk about tricky information. We may talk about, a parent that wants to take responsibility for their absence, right? But that is information which is healing to our recipient. But honestly, like, I am blown away that someone would say that literally this piece of information I've received is so bad that I need to lay it down, but I'm literally not going to share that with you. It is so damaging. It does not close the loop for the recipient. It leaves the brain and their nervous system scanning constantly for danger. And that's what she shared with me. She said, I've been left with ongoing anxiety from that experience. Now, that can also change the trajectory of someone's life. Like, if she is scared to book a holiday in case something happens to the airplane because maybe that was the bad thing, or all of this thing, everything in every single moment, you're looking for what the danger is and the bad thing. And then guess what? Because you are focused and homed in on the fact that something bad is going to happen, chances are something bad is going to happen because our energy is scanning and it's waiting, right? It's like reverse manifestation. Like, we are manifesting the thing that's going to be bad because we are constantly looking for the thing that is going to happen that's bad. And I cannot comprehend that somebody would leave someone in that state. Holy moly, like, I am like my heart is beating so hard right now, and I am so shocked and saddened and reacted to the fact that that could happen. So please don't do that. Please don't do that. Make sure that when you are connecting to the spirit world, that you are bringing through ethical information for the highest good of the receiver, for their healing, for their closure, whatever needs to come through for them. But never leave someone in such an activated state. I mean, luckily, I was able to then give her some advice on how to move through what is actually going on for her right now that's affecting her, in order for her to clear this energy and this information out of her energy field, so that she's not walking around activated all of the time. So I'd love to know your thoughts on this as well. Like, if you're a practicing medium, or if you have had something like this happen to you in a mediumship reading, I would actually love to hear from you, to be honest. So like, drop me a message below this episode, or reach out to me, or send me a message, because I think we need to talk about this a little bit more. Because after my student had shared that with me, and we were near the end of our session, one of my other students actually said to me, you know what, Emma, like, I was listening to you when you were talking about, having this kind of experience and how it can affect your life and how it can affect decisions that you make and things like that. She said, I really wanted to share this with you. And she said, when I lost my dad many, many, many years ago, I went, as a lot of people do, to a psychic medium because I wanted to hear from my dad. And she said to me, the person that read for me, he told me that my mom was going to pass away that coming February. He told me that she wouldn't be very far behind my dad, and that Christmas was coming up and we should celebrate Christmas because this was going to be her last Christmas. Now, I just have to pause for a moment for you to think about that. Let me just let that land. So I go to see a psychic medium, just lost my dad, and this medium tells me that my mum is going to pass away very soon. that I should enjoy my last Christmas with her. Now, she also shared with me, before I go any further, that was 16 years ago and her mom is still alive and kicking. But what she did share with me was the impact that information had on her, the impact of dread, how she tried to enjoy Christmas, but in the back of her mind was constantly thinking about, this is my mum's last Christmas. This is going to be the last time I have Christmas with her. So she was living with this feeling of dread. And right up till that February that came, literally every day she woke up thinking, maybe today is the day that my mum dies. Let's just let that land. That seed of fear that was planted in someone's life that changed the trajectory of how they were experiencing life, that raw, anticipated grief that alters you, it alters your energy field, it rewires your experiences because you're constantly thinking ahead. When is this going to happen? When is this going to happen? It's echoing in your mind. And she said to me, literally for probably 10 years, every single February as it approached, she had this same feeling of dread because the body keeps score. The body remembers, like it was imprinted in her that February was going to be when her mom was going to pass away. These fear-based predictions. Are predictions wrong? I think they do have a place somewhere in the psychic mediumship world, but this is not it. This is not it at all. We see celebrity, mediums and people that predict things and, world events and things like that. I think that's okay. If that's your jam and you like that, I think that's okay. But giving death timings, fear-based predictions that something bad is coming, something is going to happen, this is not healing mediumship. This is not what the mediumship world is all about. It isn't. Not from my perspective, not from my eyes and where I'm looking through. It might be in some, but it isn't for me. I will beat the drum of the fact that mediumship is a healing modality. That is not healing, right? That is not ethical responsibility. That is just spouting information out that influences someone else's reality. You get to walk away from that, right? They are taking that with them. You are giving them this piece of information and they are carrying that with them. The dread, the feeling that something bad is going to happen 10 whole years later. And she said, even still now, February's not been long gone, right? It still is there in the back of my mind every February. Is this going to be the year? And we're 16 years down the line, right? So let's think about our own ethical responsibility. We want to honor spirit in a way of bringing through information that's healing for the client. Not all love and light. Sometimes it's polarity. Sometimes it is, acceptance of things that we've done wrong, with the way we've treated someone, responsibility of something that we've done. And that's okay if it's in context to what spirit wants to share. But in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, right? My loved one is never going to come through and tell me that their partner, their wife, the mother of the person there is going to die in a few months' time and that you should enjoy your last Christmas. That's not for the good, right? Of the recipient, of his daughter right there. That is the medium. That is the medium who is bringing that information through in that kind of context. And I just don't think this has a place in the mediumship space. I'm just not okay with this. And so much so that I've literally recorded this podcast at the end of today, and literally I'm going to edit it and I'm going to literally put it straight out because I feel like this needs to be heard. because talking about this, and I love that my students bring this forward and we can actually talk about this, and that I can make them see, I guess, their experiences. And the one thing, the way we rounded up actually, which was interesting, was that by having these experiences as the recipient, as the person that's receiving the reading, we know what we don't want. We know how we don't want to make our recipient feel. We know that we want to do the best that we can, honor their spirit, honor their loved one, honor them, and be able to bring some healing to them. And we know that because we've been on the other end of a reading which isn't, that's left us in a space of feeling anxious, of feeling grief, of feeling like we're waiting for the next thing to happen, right? Like something bad. That's not all right. So let's just have this conversation, right? Where is it that ego versus responsibility, taking responsibility for our own connection, whether we can connect, whether we can come through, that's not your sitter's job. That's you as a medium. And if you can't do that, if that's a problem, seek out a mentor, seek out somebody who can help you to understand your connection, to help you understand how, you can regulate and deliver information. And especially sensitive information. Most of us in this space, when we step into this space, we're empathic, right? Like I always share this, I was always someone, if my friend went to tell me a story and she hasn't even started and she's got tears in her eyes, I'm already crying. I've got no freaking clue what she's going to say, but I am already in her energy field. I'm already feeling all the things that she's feeling, right? And what I had to really work on in my mediumship wasn't necessarily all of the mediumship things. A lot of it was actually my own self-regulation, understanding my own energy, being able to hold space for myself when I have big feelings, right? Allowing that to move through me in order to still be able to hold space for my recipient. Because if I join them in the reading, if I'm crying and let me get this straight, it's absolutely okay for you to show some kind of emotion in a reading, because that is part of the experience that you're having. But if your emotions are taking over the reading to the point where sometimes your recipient is like, oh, I'm so sorry that he made you feel like that or she made you feel like that, you are making it about you and not about your recipient, not about the person that's come to you for healing, the person that's come to you to connect with their loved one. That's the door that needs to be open, right, for you. Okay, what is it that I need to do in order for me to be okay when I am actually receiving sensitive information? So blaming other people, right? Creating fear, an open loop for someone who's waiting for some disaster and bad thing to happen because, the person that's just received that information, it was so overwhelming, so big for them. Oh my gosh, this has to be like massive. This is going to be something that's horrible, right? Now we have someone walking around waiting for that to happen. Or long-term trauma, right? Being told that someone is going to pass away on a specific time or month, and then that person anticipating every year after year, that trauma of that time that something's going to happen. That isn't ethical mediumship. It just is not, right? So I guess now that I've been beating my drum, that's really all I've got to say on this segment and this thing. And I just really wanted to share this in real time while I'm feeling so passionate about talking about this. Do the inner work yourself, be better, right? Or don't do it at all. That's my feeling around this, right? If you're not willing to take some ethical responsibility in your part of what could be happening here, then you're not ready. There's something else that you need to go and do, or you need to put it down until you are ready. Like I remember on my journey, Spirit was so loud because I I wasn't ignoring them, but I was like, no, I see you, but not now. No, I see you, but not now. Like, I had 3 small children. I had my own business I was running, a mom, a wife, all the things, right? And like, I just didn't have the capacity. So I pushed it away and I pushed it away and I pushed it away, because I knew, like, at this moment in time, I just do not have the capacity to invest myself the way I needed to in that journey. And I put it off for long enough that spirit got louder and louder and louder. You know, we talk about the frying pan on the head. So like, I was just having the multiple frying pans on the head, to the point where I then had to sit with it and think, do I have the capacity right now to step in? And does spirit know something I don't, right? Which was, I was ready, right? I just needed to make the decision. So when I made that decision to go down this path and learn about mediumship, be guided by spirit, find people to help me along my way, you know, I've been in this journey a long time. I just haven't been, I guess, front facing a long time. And the reason for that was because I didn't really understand that when I said yes to mediumship, when I look back at it, when I launched my beauty business, and, you know, on my brand strategy form, it said, if you could do anything in the world, what would it be? And I wrote, I want to be a medium. I didn't really realize at that time it was within my capability, right? It was like a pipe dream somewhere in the ether, and that I thought, oh, I would just love to do that, but that's never me, because I'm not gifted and I'm not all of those things that people in that space talk about, right? I'm not generations of psychic mediums, all those things. But what I didn't realize is that when I said yes and stepped in, I would have to go on a deep journey to uncover parts of myself that I had buried for a long time, I wasn't willing to look at, and slowly but surely, it broke me open. And let's be honest, if you're listening to this and you're a developing medium and you've been through this, you know what I'm talking about. It cracks you open in so many ways, right? But lots of people choose not to do the work on themselves. They choose not to look inside instead of outside. They choose to be influenced by external things and blame external things and point to external things. But the one thing I am ethically about, like 100%, is if something's triggering you, if something's coming up for you, that's a bucket for you to look in. That's a door for you to open. Just have a peek inside. It's probably not going to be that pretty, but that's why we call it shadow work. We call it shadow work because we have to be willing to open the door. When we bring light to shadow, we transmute it. We transmute it. And we all have things that we've done wrong. There's versions of ourselves that we didn't like. There's versions of decisions that we've made, people that we've hurt, things that we've done, that when we look back now as ourself now, we can think, holy crap, like, I can't believe that was me, or that I did that. That doesn't mean that I have to have shame. What I have to do is acknowledge at that moment in time, I didn't know any better. And forgive that version of me that did that, because this version of me knows that I've done the work on that now. And I truly believe that as an ethical medium, we should be constantly looking at inside, what's coming up for us, and not on the outside. So maybe I went on a bit of a tangent there about that, but that is what has made me the person I am, the medium I am, and I feel like that's why I'm good at what I'm doing now, is because I'm not afraid to say I'm wrong. I'm not afraid to say I don't know all the answers. I'm not afraid to say, hey, listen, like, I can advise you on that, but, you know, this is just my opinion. And be okay with that. Because I'm not looking to be the perfect version of myself. I'm looking to be the version of myself that was one day better than yesterday, right? That's all I'm looking at. And that's what you should be too. So thank you so much for listening. I'd be like super interested to hear what other people's opinions on this. Like, do you agree? What do you think about this? Have you had experiences where you've had an experience that's left you a lot more kind of worse off than better, I guess, if for the want of a better way to put it? And if you have, like, I'd love to hear your story, because we need to talk more about this, and we need to make sure that this is not happening in the mediumship space. This is what brings down the standards of ethical mediumship, when people are leaving people in this state, and it's just not okay. All right, everyone, thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much for being here. And I will see you in the next episode, where I am talking to the beautiful Kathy. And Kathy and I are talking about her new book and, you know, her experiences in her journey along the way as well. So looking forward to that. All right, see you next time. Bye for now. Thank you so much for tuning in to Diary of a Medium, Stories from the Spirit World. If something in today's episode has sparked something within you and you are curious about your own spiritual gifts, then check out my website on how I can support you. If you have your own story to share, then please reach out. I'd love to hear from you. If you want to support me, you can subscribe, leave a review, or simply share this with a friend. So until next time, trust yourself, trust spirit, and keep listening to the whispers from the universe. Bye for now.